SOP or standard operating procedure is like a constitution for a given process. It is the only way a process can be performed. So now you may ask the question that is SOP is something like a static document? No. SOP is a dynamic document, but it maintains the static nature for a given period of time. What do we mean by this? That means SOP evolves in stages. A particular SOP, for example, a given version of a SOP, will be maintaining its sanctity for a 6 month period, say. And after 6 months, this SOP may be reviewed and this SOP may be changed. Now you have SOP version B, and this will be for 6 months, and so on. So this duration depends on the review period a company adopts. It is the policy of an organization. In case of industries where it is more disruptive in nature, the SOPs may be evolving quite frequently. In case of industries where the process or the industry itself is relatively stable, and in those cases the SOP may be very stable and it may be reviewed once in few years. But in any industry, we can say SOP is a dynamic document rather than a static document. And when we say SOP is like a constitution for the process, constitution for the given process, what do we mean is we say that this is the only way process can be performed within a organization. So now the thing is what is the typical review period? We said it is 6 months to several years. Okay. In each organization, they define a particular review period for a set of SOPs. And this review may be for two reasons. One is a periodical review process, that is, every 6 months or 3 months or a year, a SOP has to be reviewed. That is a periodic review process. And whenever there is a disruption, whenever there is a new findings of better way of doing the things or better way of performing the process, again that time they will review this SOP and they will revise this. The bottom line is SOP is a dynamic document rather than a static document. And what is the nature of this SOP? SOP describes a particular way of doing a process. SOP describes a particular way of doing a process. That means this is the most efficient way, or this could be the most effective way, or this could be the best possible way where the safety and security is very high. It could be any of these things or all of these things. So, like the purpose we want to have SOP, the main purpose we want to have SOP in an organization is to tell the entire team, whoever is using the process or whoever is performing the process, that this is the best way we can perform a process. And it could be mainly out of these four factors. One is the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the third one is safety, and the fourth one is security. And there are several other reasons which we will be discussing in the benefits section of this particular course. So now, when we talk about SOP has to provide answer to the following questions. We call this as 5 W's and 1 H. What are these 5 W's? What the process all about? The thing is what is this process? What does it do? And what are the elements or the components? And we know a process is made up of a group of activities, and each activity is made up of group of tasks. So in other words, a group of tasks make a activity and a group of activities make a process. So when we say SOP details What's this process all about? It gives an overview of the process as well as the nitty gritty. So SOP gives the macro view as well as the micro view of any given process. And then, why is this process required? The thing is, like, all organizations want to have value added process. That means when you have a process in your organization, it should there should be a value addition by the process. We don't want any non-value adding processes, right? So whenever we use the word process, immediately the one comes to mind is, what is the value added by this process? Why do we have this process within our organization? So the SOP will describe that this is the very purpose of having this process within this organization. This is the objective of having this process within the organization. Then, when this process is applicable, okay, when you should do this process, not all the time, and what are all the situations that demands carrying out this process, and where this process is performed, in which part of the organization, or in kind of like in which business units you will perform this process, or kind of like in which machineries this process is performed. So it will describe all these aspects. Then who need to perform the process? Not everybody can do all the process, right? It's a kind of like the people need to be trained. So it will describe that what are all the qualities required or what are the qualifications required to perform your process, and it clearly identifies that these are all the people who will be performing these specific activities in your process. So it is about who need to perform this process. And finally, the most important question, how to do this process, right? How to do this process? It has to be carried out in a step by step manner. These are all the skill sets required. We said like that is defined in the who part of the process. But here, like, using what you will do this process, what are all the equipments, gadgets, instruments, or software you will use to perform this process. So just to summarize here, SOP answers the 5 W's and 1 H. What the process all about? Why do we need this process within the organization, or what is the value addition by this process? Then when this process is applicable, where this process is performed, who is performing the process, and finally how this process has to be performed.